Shirley here with Sirius Taurus Moon, and this is Mercury hour Saturn day, or basically Mercury night. Mercury is retrograde, 25 degrees, Cancer, midheaven ruled by Mars, ascendant ruled by Saturn, Ketu, 2 degrees, Virgo, Moon, crossed Rahu, and Venus, 24 degrees, Leo. Now, one of the things I was thinking about with Ketu, both Ketu going through Magha, which is about prosperity, abundance, but can also be in excess um, detrimental. And again, in excess, not. And this is why Ketu works with Magha, because it's dematerializing the excess that can come with something that is hereditary or regal. A lot of people will have opportunities to dematerialize hereditary diseases. I just think about how I remember when I read texts from Chinese medicine articles and how they talked about, I think it was the pancreas and hereditary diseases, and they would say a patient comes to a Chinese medicine doctor. I read it from perspective of academic, not of a doctor, and basically says that they have alcoholism running in the family, or liver diseases running in the family, or pancreas diseases running in the family. And then the doctor asks questions and say, oh, the father was drinking alcohol, the grandfather was drinking alcohol, the grandfather was drinking alcohol. And he says, yes, this is tradition. Yes, that's not a hereditary disease. If if we change the tradition, we'll get rid of the hereditary disease. So that's definitely one thing that I see coming. Another thing, and probably could be to do with the last decan of Leo or Magha in general. Last time Ketu was here, people began to have a meatless Monday, and probably it was a lunar eclipse with the meatless Monday, or the dematerialization. Now here is the drama. Also right before Rahu, or about Rahu, I think it was Rahu Virgo, when people were exploring both, ketogenic food and carnivore food and raw veganism, which is kind of like an extreme Virgo diet. But there were a lot of celebrities becoming vegan. So I think we're going to have some sort of a polarity of people dematerializing their current diets or coming back to something that has worked in the past. Because with Ketu, we're not forgetting the past. We're trying to think, what do we take with us and what do we let go? If you think about Ketu Rahu as moving from one place to another, what do we take with us on that journey, and what do we forget about? For example, if I think about living in the Middle East versus living in the North Pole. So it's probably way more red fruits in the North Pole than in the Middle East, but it's probably a different version of pescatarian diet. Is not impossible. It's like there's different type of fish, but it's kind of like, oh, not forgetting the Mediterranean nervous system pescatarian diet, kind of like the Greek food. Not politically correct for an Israeli right now, I know. You know what I think about all these things already. But also, yeah. Um, at the same time, we want to preserve the things that are possible to preserve from the past. So what I see is people that have tried to be, let's say, vegan in the past, or raw vegan in the past, or vegetarian in the past, they might try to think about, I don't know, maybe a pescatarian, or maybe, oh, maybe if I had healthy soil, then maybe I could be a lot more vegetable fruitarian then. Doesn't mean without. And at the same time, people are going to want to dematerialize the very process, the GMOs, the excess that we have from Leo. Now, here's the funny thing: both when Rahu strikes there and when Ketu strikes there, we have weird anomalies with food. It's kind of like, do people go towards the meat or not? Now, I try to think about, and people might go through various changes. I think about the time where I first tried to be vegetarian. I was working literally in McDonald's as vegetarian. Then I had iron count of something close to zero. And then I basically tried the chicken, which tasted like a dead body. And I just kept, and it doesn't even have iron in it in suffice quantities. But everything tasted like a dead body when I returned to eat. Now, still no spirulina. Then I would try raw veganism, which would give me binges. And then I remember I did a shake of parsley and all those green stuff. Now, and then I still did not have the iron count in my blood. And that kind of abrupted things. Later I would learn that there could have been something that could have prevented absorption. So a lot of people, I think, are going to re-examine. For example, a lot of people fast. Fasting, if you have a lot of toxins in the body, you might want something that tends to the dissolving of those emotional, physical toxins. Again, I'm not a doctor, but it's just something I was thinking, particularly when people try to fast and be with themselves. It's like, well, not everything, not every circumstances allow that. Um, People that are dealing with targeting, people that are dealing with torture, people that are dealing with harassment, they're not actually able to take that time. And you know I'm talking about it because I'm still dealing with those stuff. This is going to compound to a lot of people relying on investments that are not going to come to fruition because what they're basically invested in is torturing people. Now, when it comes to the food question, it's an obvious land question.
במעבר החצייה קיים אי תנועה, צומת מצדה רובין, חצייה מכיוון צפון לדרום.
And yeah. For example, people that had no access to land and fresh air and fresh water, the land where the soil is actually healthy, they couldn't even try, let's say, veganism or vegetarianism because they were reliant on the industrial food or whatever food they got if they had more extreme conditions. And of course, as everything with Leo, the dematerialization of harassment, torture, bullying, rape culture is necessary for any diet to succeed. So, I think a lot of hospitals are going to be put to scrutiny for both the way they treat patients and also a lot of jails, the way they treat patients and what is there to eat in the sense that does the food support rehabilitation from crime? Um, do the conditions support rehabilitation from crime? And it's gonna prompt quests for access to land on an individual basis to unprecedented levels. Now, with everything else that's going on in Aquarius, in Aries, in Gemini, those are going to be tended. Now, together with that, the land needs to be cured. So we're going to have all the things that Chiron Taurus brings: unprecedented levels of earthquakes, unprecedented levels of shaky ground, the fixed earth being not fixed. Which is in friction with the grand awakening that land is necessary to recover from violence and that abolition of violence is necessary to have land or to be peaceful on the land. Um, with Aquarius, there can be the tendency to want to have an unusual order or an underground order that is still in order, and that's going to be met with a ton of friction in Aries and with Chiron. The eclipses, when are the eclipses? When Chiron squares the nodes. Let's just say that's not a moment I'm looking forward to in humanity. Um, a lot of people are going through consistent torture, whether invisible or whatnot. And I'm one of them. I think, I'm almost a decade and way more than that, but and it compounds to a mega eruption. Um, People that their ability to walk was harmed, or their ability to reside peacefully in a house was harmed. They were pushed to the margins, have become that, like the tipping point of that. People that were born into a reality that since birth they were harvested in a certain way, the tipping point of them, let's say, no longer being the cattle, I think that's gonna be Chiron squaring the nodes. So there is going to be this trine between Ketu and Chiron, or Ketu and Aries. And we can probably try to enjoy this trine while it's still there. Because by the end of, I think, 2028 to 2029, we're no longer going to be in the trine, we're going to be in the square relations between Chiron and the nodes. And people that are carrying decades of being harmed since infanthood, wherever they are, it's going to compound to something megalittically disastrous on a humanity scale. People who were targeted for decades, again, I'm the last person to talk about a teeter-tatter, but when when the Great Wall is collapsing, when a tsunami is arriving. Yeah, I don't want to be swimming on the shore sunbathing. I mean, and the people that go swimming on the shore sunbathing during disastrous times, they are aware of. They are aware of the hey, when the water withdraws, it's time to climb to the mountains. There it is. Why? Because they've been targeted since infanthood. The situations where they are in peace are different. They're not against humanity, only against those who target people since infanthood. And are not willing to enter a tit-a-tat, and not here to hunt anybody. They're here to put a terminal solution to a problem of targeting infants along their lives. They're not here to torture, they're not here to avenge. They're here to put an end to targeting them since infanthood. Krakatoa